I can feel an accident coming on. I just hope Ben's insured. 5 bedrooms, back at its normal time, 2:15. Now on BBC One, sometimes falling in love online can come at a price.
The UK is fighting a tidal wave of romance fraud.
In the last year alone, almost 10,000 cases have been reported to the police.
It's a hugely harmful crime which can be devastating emotionally and financially, with the economic cost to the UK last year close to £100 million.
It doesn't matter if you're old or young, a man or a woman. It could happen to anyone.
The man you've been speaking to is not real.
I loved him so much.
And we are back to expose the lies and manipulation behind these heartless scammers.
We'll be uncovering the tactics of the criminals behind the scams.
It's set up to trap someone.
And following the teams that won't rest until the scammers are brought to justice.
And as ever, we'll have everything you need to know to make sure you and your money stay safe.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Coming up, how a grief-stricken man was led into a suspect online friendship.
Sometimes I just don't get affected by it, other times it just hits a nerve.
You've got me crying now.
How this woman was convinced into giving £120,000 to a man she'd never met.
My mum and sister had seen the state I was in, and between them, they discussed it, and my sister asked for a loan from a bank.
And how mistaken identity led to a shocking showdown for this man.
And she pointed at me and says, I found you, you've seen me, and I know where you are.
Kim, we've been contacted by someone called David. He's just started speaking to someone online called Louisa. He has parted with a bit of cash, but it's early days. He's suspicious, and I'm hoping that if we get to the bottom of what's going on, potentially we could save him a fair bit of heartache. Let's take a look.
OK.
I was on Facebook and Louisa got one of the recommend as a friend, and it just developed as regular chatting 2 or 3 times a day. Gradually got more and more texts per day. And then after perhaps 3 or 4 weeks, it got to where we professed that we love each other. The first time she asked for money was a request for $150 for medicines for a mother. She suggested we meet up by me bringing her over to England, that to do that, she's going to need around about $1,000, I would think, for the return flight. But at the moment, I have no guarantees that Louisa exists as Louisa and as the photographs that she's sent me.
What I think is good is that he's come to us right at the beginning, and actually he's been sensible enough not to keep sending money.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping that we can get to the bottom of what's going on and potentially save him a lot more money.
David sent me all the correspondence, pictures and documents he has about Louisa. So I'm going to start work on finding out more about her.
Meanwhile, I'm on my way to meet retired driving instructor David. He's from Nottingham and had been married for 51 years with 2 children before sadly losing his wife Pat to a sudden illness in 2020.
We got married 12th of July 1969. We were teenage sweethearts, got married when we were 17, had 51 years together.
So this is still really raw for you? You're
Yes,
still in a...
I'm getting emotional.
That's all right, David. You're allowed to get emotional.
Sometimes I just don't get affected by it, other times it just hits a nerve.
You've got me crying now.
Sorry,
Please don't apologise.
spoiling it for everyone.
Absolutely not. David, we want to get your story and we want to make sure that we do right by you.
Right.
After the death of his wife, David spent time on social media, reconnecting with friends and keeping in touch with family in an attempt to keep his loneliness at bay. In October 2021, he received a message from 30-year-old New York-based nursing student Louisa Butler.
So when you first started chatting with Louisa, it was through Facebook?
Yes, told her where I lived and that I were living on my own in the bungalow, and then on one at chat she put "I love you" at the end of it, and that started the warmth of it going.
Yeah.
It was becoming obvious to David that Louisa wanted more than a friendship. She also confided in him that she'd moved back to the US after fleeing a previous relationship in Germany. David responded with messages of support, and not long after connecting, Louisa's first request for money arrived.
She has asked you for money?
Yes.
How much is...
$150. I said, what's the money for? As she said, it was for her mum's medication. That was when she sent a photograph of her with her mum.
Louisa told David that her mum had been in hospital having an operation and required ongoing medication since. David sent $150 via PayPal to cover the cost of the medication, and the two started making plans to meet in person. Soon after, on her birthday, David sent Louisa a gift.
I did send flowers that cost about $80 because it were her birthday.
Oh, right, OK.
But by contacting a florist in New York.
So you've got an address for it?
Address and phone number, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But the flowers never got delivered, and she resorted to actually going to the florist and fetching them.
OK.
And then she sent a photo of her holding the flowers and they're behind them.
Louisa said she was delighted with the flowers and keen to push ahead with their plans to meet. But she told David that in order for her to visit him in the UK, she would need him to pay for her flights and her travel documents.
Her passport, it's out of date, so she asked me, could I spend $210 so that she can get a passport ready to fly over?
Right.
And I checked on flights, and that's going to be right at about $1,000, so that's another 1,200 quid.
So the plan that you've got in place is that she's going to get a passport and she's going to fly out when?
Originally, she was going to come over on the 16th of December and stay Christmas and New Year. But I've put it off until such time as we know whether it is genuine.
David may have put their plans to meet up on hold for now, but he's still hopeful the friendship and romance is real.
So you would like this to be...
Genuine.
Genuine.
If I'm honest with myself, then I hope this is a strange one where it actually works out to be true.
Whatever David's hopes, for me already, there are a number of warning signs about Louisa's story. Time for me to do some digging.
So David said he sent some flowers to Louisa. Weirdly, she said that she couldn't receive them and so went to a shop to pick them up. She then sent 2 photos back to David, one of the flowers, the other with her with the flowers. I'm going to check those photos and see what comes up.
And even with the naked eye, I've spotted something highly dubious.
Looking at the 2 photos of the flowers, it's clear that it's the same photo. In one of them, however, Louisa's just been photoshopped into the photo. And if you cast a bit of a critical eye on it, it's not even a good Photoshop. She's a bit blurry, the background doesn't match with the flowers. Clearly she has cropped herself into this to try and seemingly dupe David.
Louisa's other photos also raised suspicions, including this one of her and her mum.
Louisa told David that her mum was ill and so needed some money for support. David did send money over, and Louisa even sent David a photo of her and her mum to, I suppose, convince David. I'm going to look into that photo because it does look a bit fishy.
A reverse image search shows me where this image may have been used on the internet before, and already it's not good news. It seems an identical photo of Louisa is all over the internet.
There's a link here with what appears to be the original photo of the lady David believes to be Louisa, but no one's in the background. So it appears as if someone has photoshopped the lady in the background into this original photo. That is not a good look.
And it gets worse.
Look, this photo comes up on a scam fraud website. It comes up on dating profiles on different social media accounts with different names and people. A Mariana, a Jenny, a Bernice, all with the same photo. A Danielle, a Natalie, oh my days, it goes on. An Ella, a Sherry. I mean, it just doesn't stop. That is a real concern for us at this stage, and it's not looking good for David.
David contacted us just 2 weeks into his relationship with 30-year-old Louisa. His daughter Tanya was concerned about the relationship from the start and is keeping a close eye on how things have developed.
So, Tanya, tell us about what you're thinking about this relationship that he's got with Louisa.
I was shocked, to be honest, when Dad told me, and I didn't really know how to react.
Yeah.
I find it hard to trust or believe anybody. I mean, if you've not met someone, you only know what they tell you.
What did you think when your dad told you that she'd asked him for money?
Straight away, I thought, any time is too soon to ask for money.
If this turns out that she's a scammer, how are you going to feel?
It'll be a disappointment, because even though the more I read into it, the less real it seems.
This is a unique situation for us because it's happening right at the start, and just because you were in a place where you could do some interaction from another person.
Yeah.
And scammers are super clever.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're in a vulnerable position, it's easy done.
Well, yeah, you're wide open, aren't you? Your emotions and all your nerves are at raw edges. And anybody that wants to can soon, especially with professionalism, they can soon work on you, can't they?
Yeah. You're a lovely man. You're a lovely family. So
Thank
let's
you.
get to the bottom of this. This is still really, really early days, and it just goes to show that actually being honest and open and coming out and telling people what's gone on, telling your family, you know, can really save you.
The twists and turns of a scammer's story can leave anyone guessing what's true and what's not right up to the moment that reality comes crashing in. And that's certainly the case for Rachel Elwell, whose extraordinary story began when online dating.
50-year-old international business development manager Rachel from Walsall was married for 14 years before getting divorced in 2018.
Good boy.
On New Year's Eve 2020, she was persuaded by her sister to join an online dating site. The next day, Rachel received a like from 54-year-old Stephen Barrio Hugo. He said he was an architect based in Coventry. Impressed, Rachel decided to like him back.
He just seemed nice and just very genuine, and his messages weren't anything heavy, quite light-hearted.
Stephen said he was originally from Spain, but had been living in the UK for 40 years. Over WhatsApp, he told Rachel he was a widow, his wife Julie having died 7 years earlier from breast cancer. He said he had a 17-year-old daughter he'd raised on his own, and he and Rachel soon started chatting about their careers away from the dating site.
He explained that he'd been tendering for a contract for 4 months. Everything was very slow during COVID, and felt that I was his lucky charm because all of a sudden he'd been invited for an interview in Cardiff. So I wished him luck with his interview. He went to Cardiff, and then he WhatsApped me to say he'd been so lucky and he was awarded the contract in the Ukraine.
Barrio, as he preferred to be called, flew out to Ukraine almost immediately for phase 1 of the contract in 2021.
He then got on the plane, blew me a kiss, sent me a photograph, and I thought, that's sweet. I didn't really think anything more of it at that point.
The pair made plans to meet up in person when he was due to arrive back in the UK in 3 weeks' time. But then there was a problem.
He messaged me to say he'd hit a snag on site and there was a problem with tax. He said that he'd been to the tax office, they'd seized his equipment, closed the site off, and said, you need to pay us some money.
Barrio told Rachel the Ukraine tax office had agreed to release his equipment if he paid them £57,500. But with his investors refusing to stump up the cash, Barrio asked Rachel for help.
I said, I've never given money to a stranger, why would this be any different? He said, you can trust me.
Rachel agreed to lend Barrio £250 for food while he raised the money to pay the rest. Barrio then said he'd managed to raise £50,000 through his own savings and a loan from a bank in the UK. He was just then £7,500 short. After more promises from Barrio to pay Rachel back, she finally agreed. But after receiving Rachel's cash, Barrio wrote again to say that since raising the £57,500, the tax office had now upped the bill.
He sent me a letter from the tax office that said what the tax bill was in full. So we'd got to pay them just about 160k in total. I Googled it and the figures made sense. So he said, if I raise 70, can you get the 30? I said, I haven't got that kind of money.
Barrio told Rachel he'd managed to borrow £20,000 from a local Russian gangster. He then went on to convince her to take out a £15,000 loan to help him, and also to give him the remaining £8,000 of her savings.
He was saying, we're so close, just a little bit more, and things will get back to normal and I can complete this phase of the project. I really believed I was going to get my money back. I would never have sent him anything if I doubted for one moment I was going to get that money back.
By this point, Rachel had sent Barrio over £30,000. With the money sorted and now making plans for a possible future together, things seemed to be going well for Barrio and Rachel. But then, Barrio wrote to tell her his building project had hit another snag, this time to do with a key piece of equipment.
Barrio then called and said, we have a huge problem. The tractor had been left standing for 3 weeks. It got waterlogged. It had seized up completely. So he said, I said, you need to borrow more money. He said, I've exhausted every avenue. So I took out a loan for £12,000. I felt at this point I didn't have any choice. I felt under massive duress. I knew if I didn't raise the money for the tractor repairs, I wasn't going to get that money back.
With the project now delayed, Barrio told Rachel he needed 3 more men to work on site at a cost of £1,500 each. He asked again if she could help.
So I'd got a little bit left in my savings and I took some money on a credit card and sent in the £4,500. I felt like this was my project almost. I was in it with him. What choice did I have but to send this money?
Barrio reassured Rachel over the phone that she was doing the right thing and thanked her for her support.
We spoke every day. He told me everything was running to schedule. He kept thanking me for believing in him. His daughter was over the moon. At this point, we were texting, me and his daughter Katie. She was saying, thank you for believing in my dad. He's the only parent I have. And I thought, I've done a good thing here. I've helped this family.
By February 2021, the project was finished. Barrio was due to fly home the next day when he and Rachel were going to meet for the first time.
It was about 12 hours before he was due to land. And he rang me and he was hysterical. He was screaming and crying. He said, I'm locked up.
Barrio told Rachel the Russian gangster he'd borrowed £30,000 from had sent 2 heavies to kidnap him en route to the airport. The gangster was demanding his money back before Barrio left the country and was threatening to kill him if he didn't pay up.
Barrio actually sent me pictures of him lying on the floor in this cellar. And at this point now, he told Katie what had happened, and you could tell by the messages she was really stressed.
Horrified and worried about Katie, Rachel felt she had to help. She took out another high-interest loan to pay off the £30,000 debt to the loan shark. But when she tried to transfer the cash, Rachel's bank stepped in. They prevented the payment and took further steps to intervene.
There was a knock at the door, and it was 2 police officers from West Midlands Economic Crime Victim Care Unit. They said Santander had sent them. I made up a story that we'd been together for a long time. He'd run into difficulties in the Ukraine. The plan longer term was for us to be together and get married and sell one house and move in together. I mean, inside, the shame and embarrassment of lying to the police. But all I kept thinking was, I need you to leave so I can get the 30,000 over so they don't kill him.
Rachel's story was enough for the police to leave, and she successfully managed to transfer the £30,000 to free Barrio. But shortly afterwards, he called Rachel with some news.
He said, I haven't paid the £15,000 interest, so he's preventing me from having my passport. So my mum and sister had seen the state I was in, and between them, they discussed it, and my sister asked for a loan from a bank.
Rachel's sister Sonia agreed to take out a loan for £11,500 and gave Rachel £700 of her savings. Using her overdraft to make up the difference, Rachel transferred the £15,000 to pay the interest and release Barrio's passport. Rachel travelled to Heathrow to finally meet Barrio and hopefully get her money back too.
And I waited. After waiting for a while, I went to the ladies and an email came through on my mobile. And this email was from a supposed Ukrainian airport telling me that Barrio had been arrested 7 hours earlier.
According to Barrio, he had been detained by Ukrainian customs after helping to carry an elderly man's bags, which turned out to contain cocaine. Unsure about his latest story, Rachel decided to make some checks. She took the email she'd been sent to the airport officials at Heathrow, who confirmed it was fake. Rachel challenged Barrio.
I was screaming and shouting and swearing. I was going absolutely ballistic. And I kept saying to him, if you don't pay me this money back and you don't pay, I will have lost everything I've ever worked for. I'm 50 years old. I will lose everything. I will be bankrupt.
Realising she wasn't going to be seeing Barrio, Rachel drove home. As she walked through the door of her home, she received a phone call from Barrio, crying and pleading for help. He said Ukrainian airport officials were demanding £35,000 ransom money to release Barrio. If Rachel didn't pay, they were going to kill him. Convinced by his story, Rachel set about raising the money.
Going back to Santander in the beginning, I'd sent 2 payments that hadn't reached the recipient bank in the Ukraine, and they'd been recalled. So when the 2 recall payments arrived back in my bank account, there was just over 22,000. I managed to raise another sort of 3,000 or 4,000 by drawing off £20, £100 off the 3 credit cards. And again, I was £10,000 short.
To make up the final £10,000 needed, Rachel sold her car. She sent the £35,000 to pay Barrio's ransom money, then decided there was one last call she needed to make. She drove to Barrio's house in Coventry to offer daughter Katie and housekeeper Melanie some support.
Went up to the front door, knocked the door. A woman approached and I said, hi, I've come to see Katie and Melanie. They don't live here. And I just knew, in that moment, that Katie and Melanie didn't exist, that Barrio didn't exist. I just knew in that moment. I knew that I'd been a victim of some kind of fraud, but I couldn't believe I brought my family into it. And what I put them through. And my sister, who can't afford that kind of money.
Over the course of the scam, Rachel had given Barrio a staggering £113,000. As we've seen many times on For Love or Money, the person in the photos Rachel believed to be Barrio was an innocent party and another unwitting victim of the fraudster. We have identified the man who had his photograph stolen and attempted to contact him to let him know. Rachel was left devastated, but since has attempted to rebuild her life with the support of her family.
There's a lot of good people out there, and these criminals target good people. They target compassionate, caring, good people. What I would say, the biggest, most important message from this is, don't ever give one single penny of your hard-earned money, your savings, your inheritance. Don't borrow money. Don't ever give one single penny to anyone that you have never met in person.
Someone who has given money to someone they've never met in person is David Beresford. He believes he's in the early stages of a relationship with 30-year-old Louisa Butler from New York City, but my early investigations suggest Louisa isn't being honest with David. I'm meeting up with Sam Cooper, a private investigator who's been helping us delve deeper into the background of Louisa and figure out who the woman in the photos could be.
So David believes that he's been talking to a young nursing student called Louisa, and unfortunately Louisa is not who she claims to be. He sent 3 pictures through. We found the pictures online and they belong to a lady called Danielle Delaunay, who is an adult actress.
I was nervous you were going to say that, you know.
Unfortunately, I see it on many occasions where the pictures do belong to somebody that's either in the modelling industry or the adult film industry. I also found that the pictures had been used on many sites, so things like social media, so TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and various profiles were being made under Danielle's name using a variety of different pictures.
And the means by which David transferred his money to Louisa raises another alarm for Sam.
David showed us proof of the PayPal payment, the receipt for it, and you'll notice on there that there's a different name that the payment has been made to. That's an immediate red flag not to part with the money. It's not going to the person that you think it is. And it either is somebody that has made this account purely to scam, or it's going to somebody who is innocently being used as a money mule to pass the money from one person to the next.
Which is potentially even more concerning because we're now talking about breaking the law. OK, well, look, thank you very much, really helpful, and I'm sure it's going to be a ton of help to David.
Thank you.
When we investigate cases, we frequently find people who have innocently got caught up in the fraud because their photos have been stolen and used by scammers. Simon Cole is one person who found himself in that exact position. 64-year-old Simon is a happily married man living in Lincolnshire. He's worked as a commercial model for 5 years.
It's not fashion modelling per se. My photographs are used in commercials, in TV ads, magazines, things like that.
In order to successfully launch his modelling career, like all models, Simon set up a professional social media profile. But since then, he's had his imagery stolen by scammers on numerous occasions.
A little after I started putting professional shots on, contacts or friends would send me screenshots of a profile, somebody's profile, but the photographs were of me with a name and a location, and they had a number of followers and they were following a number of people. And it was a bit of a shock.
Even more of a shock was that soon after, Simon was being contacted by dozens of people, many of whom believed they were in a relationship with him.
I've been contacted by 45, 50 people. It became clear that this was not a random thing, it was an engineered thing with, in some cases, a fairly extensive background profile, and it did start to concern me as the numbers increased.
Where he can, Simon tries to help prove to the victims that they're being scammed.
There was one lady who contacted me and she says, "Are these your photographs? Because somebody is asking me for money." And I go, "This is me. I'm not doing this. It's a fake profile. You're being scammed. I'll FaceTime you right now." And she burst into tears. What she did was call this guy and she challenged him. She goes, "Well, I'm talking to the guy on FaceTime who owns that face." So, and he went, "Well, he's an imposter." I was listening to this guy.
But for Simon, proving to victims that his photos have been stolen and he's not the person behind the scam isn't always this straightforward.
I had a message from a lady saying, "Well, I'm in a relationship with a guy called Charles who claims he lives in Canada. Are you sure this is not you?" And I go, "I assure you, this guy Charles is not me." But she was quite insistent, and I said, listen, what you need to do, you're the victim of a scam. And I said, so all you need to do is delete. And she goes, well, I've given him some money, and I think this is you. And he says, you're ruining my life. And I went, I'm not doing anything. It was about 6 weeks later. I was leaving the house very early one morning, and there was a person stood at the bottom of the drive. As I pulled off the drive, I wound the window down, and she pointed at me and says, I found you, you've seen me, and I know where you are. And I knew instantly who it was. I just knew. I remember my legs were shaking, and you can't really focus you can't think clearly. There's so many, variables going through your mind. And I said, stay where you are. I got my phone out and phoned the police while I'm stood 15 foot from this person. She'd driven from Germany, and she'd located me, the police think, by the use of a private detective.
Simon believes that social media platforms should be doing more to secure the safety of their users.
I think people should have to provide a number of evidence documentation, passport, national insurance number, medical certificates, proof of identity before a page or a profile is approved.
And Simon has a clear message to anyone that sees his image being used on a dating site.
Nobody's going to get a message from me on a dating site. If somebody gets a message from somebody that looks like me, or it's my photographs, you're being scammed, right? Ask them to do a FaceTime or a Skype or anything where you can have a visible conversation. If they refuse, they are trying to steal from you.
The case is mounting that trainee nurse Louisa is scamming David Beresford. And it looks like this is another case where an innocent individual has had their identity stolen by scammers. I want to know if there's anything we can be doing as individuals to stop this sort of thing happening. So I'm meeting Amber Burridge from CFAS, a not-for-profit organisation which runs the National Fraud Database and aims to keep individuals and companies on their guard against scammers. And Amber had some sobering facts about the rise in fraud cases in the last year.
In the first 9 months of this year, we've actually seen a 16% increase in the volume of cases that have been recorded. And effectively, identity fraud is something that we see really significantly, and it accounts for about 60% of what gets recorded to us. So it is an ever-increasing problem.
Have you seen an increase in romance fraud?
So effectively, earlier this year, Action Fraud kind of reported, towards the end of April in the 12-month period, they'd actually seen a 40% increase in the number of reports come in, around 40%, in relation to kind of romance scams, and effectively costing around £74 million. And we already know in the first half of this year, Action Fraud have actually reported that over £15 million worth has been lost to investment opportunities, like investment frauds, effectively linked to romance scams. And I think that is the telling story, is that actually, we are in a period at the moment where obviously we are kind of in some respects quite vulnerable and susceptible, particularly with everything that is going on. And these criminals are like glorified marketers. They see an opportunity, they know what to say and how to kind of really tug on those heartstrings. And sadly, what we're seeing is that unfortunately people believe, they're in a relationship with someone and they've got that relationship of trust. And effectively what these criminals are doing is they're kind of reading from a script.
I know that a lot of people that are in the public eye will have people making fake profiles. And I know my daughter's had several times people have said to her, oh, did you know that your name's Becky and you're on Plenty of Fish? And it's that kind of thing. And then we do report it and they get taken down, and then they pop back up again, and that's quite frustrating.
I think the thing with the internet is that it's almost like a whack-a-mole situation that you end up in terms of kind of you report it and actually someone else has a copy of that photograph or that image and they will use it. The key thing really is to kind of not lose heart in that respect. There is work going on obviously with the online safety bill, which we should all consider around user-generated content, and so that is really going to ramp up some of these preventative measures that we will see around kind of keeping people safe online. And, you know, Get Safe Online is a really great resource as well around, you know, if you feel like your profiles have been abused, actually here's some really good points of contact that you can go to get that advice.
What would your advice be to a completely innocent person that is finds themselves caught up in a romance fraud situation?
Fraud is not a taboo subject. You are a victim. Don't be embarrassed, because you are not the only one who has suffered from this type of scam. And it's really important that, you know, we come forward and we do report this, because if we don't report it even to like platforms that this activity has happened on, nobody will know about it. And actually, by reporting it, you're actually protecting other people as well.
Retired driving instructor David from Nottingham was looking for companionship after his wife of 52 years had died. After meeting Louisa Butler online and hitting it off, they began to make plans to meet in person in the UK. However, with requests for money starting to pile up, David's come to us for help. And he was right to be suspicious. As we've discovered, Louisa is nothing more than a front for cold-hearted scammers trying to dupe David out of his cash.
I sent all of this to the private investigator, and there are so many red flags.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him because he's had a really bad time of things. His wife passed away fairly recently.
It's time to give David the truth about Louisa.
Hi, David.
Hi, Kim.
Have you sent any more money?
I sent $25 at Christmas.
OK.
When David came to us, he was suspicious Louisa wasn't real. However, his continued willingness to send her money is concerning. It's important we put a stop to this fraud before it goes any further.
I'd like to think it's genuine. Last night, thinking about today, as daft as it sounds, that at the end of the programme she walks down the corridor.
That's what you were hoping for?
That's what I was hoping for, yeah.
OK.
We start with the stories Louisa has fed David throughout their relationship. Stories we've heard all too often before.
There were a few things in your case that we've seen before, David.
Right.
Louisa spoke about being stuck in another country, needing money for documents, needing money for medication, and for family members. These are common tactics.
I think the one about asking for medication money, that's the reason why I actually phoned the programme up. I've had as many suspicions that it's negative as thoughts I have that I hope it's positive.
Something we can certainly disprove is where Louisa says she's from.
She told you that she was staying at her uncle's apartment in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And that he had been renting that apartment for at least 2 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
OK. Well, we found this address, David, on a property website. It has been listed and rented to 3 different people over the last 2 years.
Right.
Meaning Louisa could not have been telling you the truth about this. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Are you OK?
Yeah, fine.
This fake address helps explain why the flowers David ordered to be delivered to her never arrived, with Louisa subsequently claiming that she had to go and collect them.
First point to make is that we suspect Louisa would have had difficulty in receiving them because of the fact that she wasn't truthful with you about her address.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for me to see that the picture of the flowers Louisa sent David was fake.
When we analysed this photo, you can see the complete colour change in the image between Louisa and the flowers. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The lighting appears to be different, the shades are completely different.
Yeah.
That's because 2 photos have been edited together.
Yeah, just to make it look like one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Does it shock you to know that someone would have gone to those lengths to try and convince you that they'd received flowers?
No, because they'd go to any measure to get whatever money they can.
Yeah.
Louisa had asked David for money to replace her passport, which she said was out of date. She even sent him a copy of her old passport. But it wasn't hard for us to see right through this document.
So you can see all of her details are much clearer than the rest of the text.
Yes.
Where it says her name at the bottom, the font looks different to the rest of the existing text as though it's been added later. It says here that she was born in 1991.
Yes.
David, if that was true, when this passport was issued in 2003, she would have been 11 years old. But in the photo, you can see she's an adult.
Right.
So it just doesn't add up.
No.
Now for that photo of Louisa with her mum. It didn't take me long to prove it was a fake, with the original photo being used on dating profiles around the world.
Oh, crikey, yeah. Been used a few times, hasn't it?
It's been in circulation, it appears, by scammers for a while.
It just appeared genuine to me.
You can see by looking at this original that Louisa's mum was never actually in the original photo.
True, yeah.
With David's online romance with Louisa appearing to be nothing more than a straight-up scam, it's time to reveal to David who the real person is in the photographs.
Her name is Danielle Delaunay. She is a model and actress based in America. One thing that I want to flag to you is she has no involvement.
No, okay. I wouldn't have thought so.
I mean, she is in wide circulation in terms of her photos and use by scammers.
Right.
And so Danielle has made a video you can see in the platform.
I'm going to discuss scammers. If you haven't seen them on Skype, don't send money to people that you've never met.
Okay, what it shows is that you clearly aren't the first person to be taken in by this.
True, yeah.
Sadly, probably won't be the last.
Won't be the last, yeah. That's the unfortunate bit. This ain't going to stop whoever it is from doing this, is it?
But people like you coming forward,
yeah.
Somebody's going to be watching this today. Someone's watching you, telling your story. May have been sent a photo by Louisa.
Yeah.
And I'm being asked for money by that same person.
But having said that and agreeing with it, I also feel stupid that I was sucked in by it.
Everybody feels that. And actually, you haven't done anything wrong. You're a kind-hearted person in a very, very vulnerable place. You were married for a long time, weren't you?
Yeah, 52 years. And, excuse me.
It's okay, David.
Sorry about emotions.
You don't ever have to apologise, David. You've gone through such a traumatic time.
Honestly, I have so much respect for you. Your vulnerability, the fact that you've come here, despite being so vulnerable, you should be so proud.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Just take our advice. If something doesn't feel right, it most probably isn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And certainly, please, 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 please don't give anybody any money online.
No. No,
Not
I
if you
think
don't
I've
know
learnt
them.
that the hard way.
Yeah. Poor David, he said that he was 7 out of 10, that he thought was going to be a scam, but he still was devastated, you could see that.
But he did something really significant, which is he spoke out. It's hard for men to be vulnerable often.
Men.
It's true.
Speak up, men.
Hands
Speak
up. It's very true. It's hard, isn't it? But he shows that it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's anybody at home watching this that might have the slightest doubts in the mind about it and think that it's got a potential, then speak up. Speak to someone that's cold about the situation, that doesn't have any emotional involvement. Let them have an open view that might guide you into speaking to a programme like what I've spoken to.
Join us again.
He proposed to you.
He proposed to me over the phone.
As victims try to move on from the pain of being scammed.
So it's like you're in a pit, and by talking to someone, they're grabbing your hand and pulling you out of it.
Details of organisations offering information and support with fraud are available at the BBC Action Line website.